Gratitude is the practice of seeing everything in your space as a useful component of the journey ahead. Welcome to the Living Inside Out podcast. I'm your host, Toks Aruoture, entrepreneur with 20 years of experience, founder of The Baby Cut Shop, a luxury nursery furniture brand and design studio in Chelsea, London. I also founded The Revealery, an invitation-only exclusive furniture company. I'm a TEDx speaker and a mindset coach. This podcast is about embracing mindset shifts through life, business, and faith. Each week, we dive beneath the surface to uncover and challenge the limiting beliefs that hold us back, exploring how to live from the inside out. I believe God has equipped us with the resources to live the life we truly desire. So, if you're ready to use your natural gifts and step into your best self, let's get started. Hey, how are you doing? Welcome to the month of March. 1st of March 2025, and I'm so excited to share my thoughts with you today. What have you been up to? How did you find February? I saw a funny meme just yesterday that had January 2,999 days, February blink, and it's gone. And then we're in March. And that's actually what it feels like. I don't know if it's because February only has 28 days, or maybe it's because January just really felt long. But either way, I'm excited to be starting a brand new month. For those of us in the Western Hemisphere, we are excited about warmer days. Well, it hasn't started to get warm yet, but at least we know it will happen. And that's what I love about seasons, that they are faithful, that regardless of what happens, the sun always rises in the morning and sets at night. And winter comes and spring follows, and then summer, and then autumn, and winter comes again. And that certainty in the seasons changing and the fact that no matter how dark it gets, it will always get bright is a foundation for how we should approach life. That no matter what you're going through, no matter how difficult it might be, it has to end. One of my favorite phrases that I heard was, "It can't rain forever." It's very simple. And I remember the first time I heard that, it was Candy from Real Housewives of Atlanta. And she was encouraging someone and she says, "It can't rain forever." At that time, I was in serious rainy season. It was stormy. The roofs were being pulled off. Trees were being bent all the way down in the wind. It was rainy season for me. But I heard that and I just thought, you know what? She's right. I've never seen it rain nonstop. It must end. No matter how long it takes, it must end. So I do want to encourage you that if you're in a season that seems dark and long and tiring, it will come to an end. It's got to. So keep your chin up. But today we're going to talk about how to go through that exact season. How do you go through a season that is filled with challenges and it just feels like it's the end? And my question is, what if it's just a season that has a beginning, a middle, and an ending, and you happen to be in the middle? What if you're at the end of one season and just getting into the start of another? The Bible says in Ephesians 6:13, "So you will be able to resist the enemy when the evil day comes. Then after the battle, you will be standing firm." There is an after the battle, and you can still be standing firm if you resist the call or the invitation to quit. I had a thought the other day about how very often we want to change the circumstance we're in because we believe that that is the cause of our pain or our distress. And this is because most of us believe that circumstances are the cause of challenges, rather than seeing circumstances as neutral and pure data, and your interpretation of it is what makes it good or bad. You decide whether this thing has come to help you or it is here to destroy you. Making peace with trials allow you to operate during the trial, because I don't know about you, but when I'm going through a rough season, my entire focus is on solving the problem. It's not on making progress. If you have a picture of your path and see that on everybody's path there are potholes and there are bumps and there are smooth paths as well, understand that when you get to a bump or you arrive at a pothole, it's not the end, but a lot of times it can feel like the end. And a picture comes to mind of, you remember those movies they did back in the 90s? Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or Honey, I Grew Up the Kids. I can't remember what the other titles were. But in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the children, I can't remember whether it was a science experiment or what, but somehow mom or dad accidentally shrunk their children into tiny little Lilliputian sized miniature people. And the film was now based on these tiny little children who were the size of ants navigating a world that has suddenly become too big for them. And so they'll get to a pothole, and because of the relative size, it really was a pond for them. It was massive. And that's how we tend to see challenges and bumps on the road, that when we get there, it seems like this massive pond when really it's just a pothole. And it's only because we're standing so close to it and our focus is so much on it. When you're watching that movie, you want to scream at the TV and say, just turn left and go around it. But they can't see that there is a way around it. All they can see is this massive crater. And we can see that it's just a dot. And we can see that they just need to run around. But, when you're up close to something like a pothole or a pond, you can't see the edges. All you seem to see is that this is just water everywhere, or this is just holes everywhere. There is no way out for me except to go through it. And so when you make peace with the presence of trials, it allows you to operate during the trial, and your focus goes from how do I cross this pothole or cross over this bump to I was going somewhere in the first instance before I found this. How do I get there? And there's a difference between how do I get over this challenge and how do I arrive at my goal. Two very different things. They're not the same. When you're at peace and when you accept that trials are a very normal part of your journey, that the peace gives you the space to operate, and the peace allows you to continue on the path that you were on previously, rather than being sidetracked by what now looks impossible. But when you have a polarized outlook of all or nothing, it sets you up for a life of frustration and constant disappointment, because you think that your path is meant to be smooth. You think that the business idea that you came up with should indeed materialize and manifest according to the calendar that you had set. That by now, after you've set up the website and you have, created the products and you've done all of these things, how come there are no clients? How come you haven't hit your targets? Making peace with the inevitable and the normal bumps on your road is one of the most powerful life hacks that you can have. It is illogical when you see a situation that needs fixing or looks like it needs fixing and you ignore it to keep going forward. But it is incredibly powerful when you can do so. There are many of us that have an outlook of, if it's not completely smooth, I'm going to stand and smoothen it. But that's not the way, you see, because it's going to cause frustration. If success to you is earning £10 million, you will be miserable when you have £5 million. And it's not to say that we should accept less than what we are aiming for, but it just means that we must recognize that life is a journey. Life is a journey. It's not a destination. When you choose to see life as a destination, it means that your joy is placed on hold until you get there. And then when you get there, there'll be nothing to celebrate, because celebration happens in the middle, it happens along the way, and it happens with loved ones and friends. You also evolve and you change as you go through this journey of life. And if you place your joy on hold, waiting to get to the end, you may not even have anybody waiting there for you to celebrate with you. And so don't give up living just so you can celebrate at whatever your perceived end is. The end that you have imagined is really a fictitious version of how it may play out. So let's talk about the messy middle. The middle is where the potholes are. It's where the bumps are. It's where things are not working. It's where you question your sanity in continuing. It is where people will actually come and tell you, maybe you should give this up. I've had people tell me to give up, and I'm so glad I didn't listen. And I'll tell you why I didn't listen, because there was a part of me that was operating at a higher dimension than my mind was. Okay. And that was my spirit. My spirit is the originator of that idea. It gifted the idea to me in the first instance. The job of my mind is simply to process it and pass it to my body to manifest it. But when the mind begins to throw doubt on something that it was instructed to do, know that power is starting to change hands. Know that things are becoming topsy-turvy, because there is your spirit, there is your soul, there is your body, your spirit being the superior part of you because it's connected to God. The servant should not question the master. And so if you find people in your space who start to question the validity of your dream, and you start to agree with them because it's so hard, then you have flipped the script, and the part of you that should be playing servant is now becoming master, and you're not going to arrive at your goal. As a matter of fact, you stand a risk of abandoning ship and going back to the start to begin again on something new. This is why I keep saying that it is not the circumstance that causes pain, it's your view of the circumstance. You going back and starting something else or trying to create a new set of circumstances is not going to solve the problem, because the challenge is within. It has to do with how you are seeing things. Don't see potholes and bumps as signs that you have reached the end. So I want to share 3 tips that help you get off that hamster wheel of being in a perpetual state of frustration and disappointment and hope, and frustration and disappointment and hope. These tips are what I use myself, because everything, as you know, that I share on this podcast is based off of my own life experiences. I wouldn't share something I don't believe in or I haven't experienced. The first is gratitude. Gratitude might sound overused and tired, but there's a reason why it sounds that way. It's because too many people in the world have tried and found it to be very powerful. Gratitude opens your eyes to more of what you can be thankful for. And also, if you have the mindset that everything you need for your journey is on your path, you don't have to see the thing before you're grateful. Just believe that it's there and start your day with gratitude that you have everything you need. I always say to my family that we don't have any excuse. Like, we cannot not be successful in this world because we have everything we need. We are incredibly blessed to have our health. We're incredibly blessed to have a sound mind. We're incredibly blessed to actually have all of our limbs, and everything is complete. We have a roof over our heads. We have love. We have a voice. We've been gifted with all that we need. So we have everything we need. I also want to add that if any of these things are missing from your life, like your limbs or your health, or even you can't seem to see love, I want to tell you that you still have everything that you need, because everyone's path is unique. The trouble starts when we start looking at other people's paths and seeing what they have that we don't have. And we automatically think, hey, if I had that thing, then everything will be fine. And then guess what happens? We go in search of the thing. No, you've got everything you need on your path. You don't need what your sister has or your friend has or anyone else has. And being grateful for your life exactly as it is opens your eyes to see the value and the usefulness of everything that's currently present in your life. And that includes people. When I started my business, I didn't have the funds to really start a business the way you would do traditionally. I didn't have the funds to pay a web designer, but I had a moment when I realized that every web designer in the world had one thing in common, which was that they had to learn how to build. They were not born with the ability, so I could learn as well. The ability to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is on your path. So everything you need, sometimes it might not even be learning. It could be people. Maybe you need connections. Maybe you need to reach a particular person and you don't have a direct link to the person. Well, you've got people in your space who can introduce you to. People in your space could include LinkedIn. So I'm going off tangent here because now I'm talking about business, which wasn't my intention. But I don't believe that God does any more creating. He rested from all creation on the seventh day. I believe instead that we are the ones that eventually arrive at the place that He has marked out for us. We eventually embrace what God has already given to us. We eventually see ourselves as worthy of being blessed. Gratitude is the practice of seeing everything in your space as a useful component of the journey ahead. It is trusting that your life, with its warts and its ugliness and its challenges and its pain, all of it is a gift and there are no hindrances. I have said in the past that I had a tough last couple of years, 2023, 2024, but I recall when God told me that I was entering into a tough season. I was in transit through Frankfurt. I've shared the story before, and had food poisoning and the waves began to gather. If you've ever had food poisoning, you know it comes in waves. I prayed and prayed, nothing happened. But instead what I heard was, this is tough, but you can handle it. So I knew that I will survive it, but I was entering into a tough season. I knew that I will arrive at my destination in London, but I was entering into a tough season. I was going to be in transit. I was going to be facing bumps and potholes, but I knew that I will get there. And I want to assure you that you will arrive. Just because you're in a situation that's painful, the waves might be gathering, you might be praying about it, and nothing seems to be happening. It doesn't have to stop for you to continue on your journey. I thought the only way out was healing. I thought the only way out was the pain had to stop, that God had to heal me. Otherwise, we were not moving forward. But guess what? I went through the pain and got to the other side. And even as I'm speaking, I'm sure you can recall similar things in your life, whether it's a sickness as well, whether it was finances, whether it was fear, maybe it was a challenging relationship you were in, that you thought that the only way forward was for the problem to be solved. But guess what? No. You survived it. The problem didn't get solved, but here you are today. So we don't always have to flatten every bump on the road. We don't have to stop and feel every pothole on our path. Instead, with gratitude, we can continue. So how do you use gratitude to keep going when the going is tough? Well, sometimes I just brainstorm. I do this most nights. I do it in the mornings as well. I do it whenever I'm emotionally distressed, is grab a pen and paper, I use a journal, and I write, Lord, I am thankful. Then I start writing everything I'm thankful for. I recall the things, the moments, the huge moments that I needed God to come through for me, and He did. I recall those moments and I write them down. I remember, Lord, when my son was sick and you healed him, and I write down how scared I was back then and how he is a healthy young man today. I remember when my husband was ill and you healed him. I was so scared. I was seeing visions of me wearing a black dress. That's how bad it was. But then you healed him. So I thank you. I remember when I had financial challenges that I couldn't see a way out of, and I name every single one. Then I go on and I name the fact that I can see. I start from the top of my head, that I can see that when I open my eyes, I see color, I see dimension. I know the difference between an apple and the picture of an apple because I can see dimension. I'm, I then move on to all of my senses. I do all my five senses. The fact that I have a mind, the fact that I can write, the fact that I'm literate, that I can write, that I can understand English and I can understand other languages, the fact that I have people in my life who love me unconditionally. I even go back to my childhood and thank God for the childhood I had. Thank God for the fact that I was birthed in love and I was raised in love. Thank God for where I stand today and my home, and when it's cold, I can be warm and I have clothes to wear. And just really, even if you're doing it randomly as it pops into your mind, fill up that piece of paper with gratitude. And that is always an instant mood booster. Beyond anything, it instantly lifts your mood and it lifts your head up. And when your head is up, you can see further down the road. So you're no longer stuck looking down at this pothole. Instead, you're looking and you can see your vision in the distance, which is beckoning. And next week, we're going to talk more about vision. If this episode spoke to you, would you mind sharing it with somebody or sharing it with your network? And also, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. And if you are able to leave a comment where you're listening, for example, on Spotify, I'd love to know your thoughts about it. Also, subscribe to The Authentic Edge. The Authentic Edge is my other podcast, which is 3 minutes of inspiration or motivation every morning, Monday to Friday. It's released at 5 a.m. It's very brief, but powerful insights to get you thinking in a direction that propels you forward. We have so many thoughts that fight to reside in our mind every single day, every moment of the day. I have learned that how you start your day determines how your day is going to end. I've also learned that having healthy thoughts at the start of the day places you on a trajectory of success for that day and ultimately for your journey. The Authentic Edge is available everywhere podcasts are played. So it's available where you're listening to this one, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, everywhere. I look forward to catching up with you again soon. Connect with me on social media. My handle is @Toks Aruoture. Have a good one.